Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 7 and my name is Nadira Yasmin binti Fahmi. Would like to present on the comparative study between the ancient Egypt civilization and ancient China civilization. Civilization is characterized by universal adoption of high-quality civic principles and the complete development of the arts and a passion for learning that allows people of many racial and religious background to participate. And it goes back when first man set up residence on this planet. The history of civilization has been influenced by almost all countries, yet the contribution may differ from one country to another. So it indicates that civilization will differ from each group depending on their culture, background, and also the pioneer of the advancement. According to Yusuf Al-Qaradawi, Islamic culture or Islamic civilization is an integrated way of life and religion. It refers to a nation or a group of people whose way of life is founded on Islam, which is by Prophet Muhammad SAW. So, in order to achieve this objective of this definition, a lot of characteristics of civilization need to be focused on to define what is civilization in the Islamic perspective. Ismail al-Faruqi argued that Muslim civilization was the first worldwide civilization to be founded on a strong and rigid Unitarianism, which is there is only one God, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is the only one deserving worship, surrender, and a complete submission. It emphasizes that the civilization in Islamic perspective is always centered on God and religion, and therefore, along with expansion of Islamic Sharia, a quick development and well-rounded individuals are also possible. Ibn Khaldun describes the fall of a kingdom or a dynasty as a common occurrence and claims that states, dynasty, nation, and civilization are like human beings in that they are born, grow, and die, and eventually others will take their places and will experience the same outcomes. So, this cycle will repeat itself repeatedly again and again. So it proves that without the unity of the people in maintaining the consistency in developing the growth of the city, then the culture will vanish. Hence, a new pioneer will be born, and a new culture will develop.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Hannah Nabilah binti Abdul Aziz, metric number 2219746, and I will be presenting the components of civilization. Civilization comprises 6 components, namely cities, government, religion, social structure, writing, and art. In this presentation, I will talk about each component in detail. The first component is cities. The first civilizations emerged from cities, and these cities are mainly located in river valleys, which refers to the flat area between mountains or hills. River valleys were chosen so that they can engage in extensive farming activities with the aim to sustain their large population. As a result, food sources becomes more available, access to food increases, and eventually new living patterns would arise. The second component is the government. As the number of people increases, the need to guarantee food security and protect themselves increases, which leads the government to be established. Some of the main roles of the government are to create and enforce laws, as well as making sure that individuals and groups can smoothly interact. In the early civilizations, a monarchy government is typical, which basically means the people are led by kings or queens. The monarch will build military strength to safeguard people. Social structure is the third component that makes up a civilization. The primary focus of the social structure is material wealth, which explains why the social structure essentially means people being sorted into ranks. In general, there are 3 classes. The upper class, which consists of the elite member of the society, such as the rulers and priests. Middle class, composed of farmers and artisans, who are the workers with exceptional skills. And finally, bottom class, which belongs to the slaves. So the thing is, people of the upper classes would demand for luxury items, and this drives the artisans to invent new products and eventually bring forth the formation of trade centers. The existence of these trade centers allow technologies to exchange between regions. However, our main concern of civilizations, which are the ancient Egypt and ancient China civilizations, were developed based on revolutionized agriculture. From this, we can see why farmers are considered the middle class people along with the artisans. The next component, which is religion, is actually initiated by the people for two objectives. One, to explain the forces of nature, and two, to explain their roles in the world. These people believe that gods and goddesses are the key factor for their success. They would perform rituals under the supervision of the priest with the hope to win the deity's favor. Because of this, the priests are granted with remarkable influence, hence explaining their rank in the society. Furthermore, rulers would claim their power was divinely approved, and some would even profess to be divine. The second last component of civilization is writing. During the early civilizations, record keeping expanded far beyond pictures. Why? Because the rulers, priests, merchants, and artisans would all use writing to keep records. Nevertheless, not all civilizations rely on writing to keep records. Apart from that, writing is also used for creative expression, leading to the begats of the first literature works in the world. Onto the sixth civilization component, the arts. Development of a civilization also witnessed an increase of significant artistic activity. For example, architects would construct temples and pyramids to serve as a place for worship or sacrifice, and for the burial of kings and other prominent individuals. Moreover, there are painters and sculptors who would illustrate stories of nature and portray their worship ruler and gods.
Ancient Egypt civilization and ancient China civilization are the main foundation of today's development, whether in culture, technology, religion, or knowledge. The question is, what are the similarities between these two civilizations? Hence, to answer this question, we conducted an internet-based research to discover the background of ancient Egypt civilization and ancient China civilization. Assalamualaikum, I am Siti Aisyah. My metric number is 2116454. My presentation will cover the similarities between the ancient Egypt and the ancient China civilization. The first similarity is the technology of paper making. Material used by Chinese paper makers are plants which are rich in cellulose but lower in binding substances such as hemp and rattan. Moreover, hemp paper, which is described as pliable but tough, fine and waterproof, was especially popular for use in calligraphy, bookmaking and official documents in the Tang dynasty. In ancient Egypt, the paper was made from a 20 to 48 cm section of the papyrus stalk with a strip of outer rind. Individual sheets were formed by laying the strips side by side, first in one vertical layer and then in a second horizontal layer. Sheets of papyrus were then made into rolls. A common size is 20 sheets to a roll. Use was done by overlapping sheets each by 1 to 2 centimeters and adhering with a flexible starch-based paste. Moving on to the next similarity, the ancient China civilization and the Egypt civilization had discovered traditional medicine theories and practice. In detail, vital energy or qi is the fundamental concept of Chinese traditional medicine. The main purpose of the treatment in Chinese medicine is to correct qi flow from a deviant, since qi can become excessive and depletion. For example, it is documented that cramps, numbness, and paralysis were treated with needles in South China from an early period. To enhance the qi-giving power, the needle can be raised, lowered, or twirled, rotated a few times after incision using movements that often have exotic names like circling dragon, fire on the mountain, or three emanations of heaven. This treatment is called acupuncture. Similarly, ancient Egyptians believed that a healthy person should have a balance of movement of substances such as blood, air, semen, mucus, and tears in 22 vessels in human body, which are denoted by patient pulse. Moreover, Medwali's study found that ancient Egyptians surprisingly had advanced knowledge in the medical field, which are still being used until today.
For instance, they will perform dental surgeries where surgically produced holes used to an abscess drain under the first molar were found in the mandible of the 4th dynasty mummy. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, I am Hanis and I'll be explaining about differences between ancient China and Egypt civilization. Okay, let's take a look at the first difference, which is in the aspect of cities. The people during ancient China mainly settled along two major rivers, which is Yangtze and Yellow River. The region along Yangtze River banks is very fertile that becomes the main source of economy and agriculture for the ancient Chinese. It's also the wealthiest region at that time. However, Yellow River was on the contrary. It was called the Great Sorrow, as the house near the river banks was always destroyed when the flooding season came during the low position of the river banks. However, as for the ancient Egypt, they settled along one river known as the Nile River. The Nile was their main source of water for their everyday life use and activities, their main source of foods, even transportations, to the point they even worship it as a god named Hapi. Comparison between these two civilizations was from the aspect of social structure. Note that they both are organized in a hierarchy. For ancient China civilizations, at the upper of the hierarchy was the king and imperial families, and in the middle was nobles, officials, farmers, artisans, and craftsmen. And at the bottom was merchants and traders. Merchants and traders are wealthy than farmers and artisans, but is considered the lowest because it is believed by the people that their job did not impart any good for the society but only for themselves. As for ancient Egypt, Pharaoh was at the highest rank of the hierarchy. Pharaoh was viewed as god king and even descendant of the sun god Ra. In the middle below Pharaoh, there is vizier, chief priest, noble, priest, scribe, soldiers, and merchants, and also craftsmen. Unlike the ancient China civilizations, farmers are at the lowest rank along with the servants. And the last aspect of differences between ancient China and ancient Egypt was their religions or beliefs. In ancient China, there were three sets of beliefs and values. The first is Confucianism, which taught about fairness, kindness in treating people in the society. Taoism was a belief that people need to become one with the life force through meditation and exercise. And as for Buddhism, which is the last of the set of beliefs in ancient China, is a belief where one sought for more spiritual meaning in their life, leaving all the sorrow and pain behind in order to reach nirvana, which is the state of enlightenment. In contrast, the Egypt believes in polytheism. They believe that each force of nature surrounding them, happening around them, is under the control and responsibility of deities. They believe in God of love, wisdom, and fertility. Among all the gods they worship, the sun god Ra was the most important to them. These sets of belief greatly influence the way they live their life, the way they let their belief, and even how they prepare for their death.
My name is Fatima Binti Idris, and I would like to proceed with the contribution of the ancient Egypt and China civilization. So for the ancient Egypt civilization, first of all, we have the pyramid architecture. Pyramid was first constructed from the inspiration of Imhotep, who is a scientist, physicist, architect, and also the important advisor of Pharaoh Djoser. It was built by staking the mastabas on top of each other and carried a series of steps that decrease in size to the top and form a pyramid shape. So next, ancient Egypt also introduced the invention of paper. The paper was made from the piece of papyrus plant which lived in the Nile Valley. They were able to create this long, durable, and thin sheet by weaving the long strip together and placing a weight on top of them to bind them together. So in fact, the wood paper actually comes from the papyrus plant. So the invention of paper helped people to record the message and publish important documents. Meanwhile, in the field of medical science, ancient Egypt civilization has produced many medical professionals in the medical who had a high status in their society and which are allowed to serve the pharaoh and also the community. So the belief of the ancient Egyptians are closely related to the development of their medicine field. For example, they believe in the resurrection of the body and life everlasting that has developed to the mummification process. Next, we proceed to the early China civilization contribution to the world. First of all, we have the writing system. The writing system in the early China civilization, known as ideogram, which in the symbol form that originated from the creating of the oracle bone. There has been a system of writing in which picture represents something or an object since the time of the Shang dynasty. The original form of this writing has images such as children, the moon, and the sun before it became a more complex form like nowadays. The ideogram writing form with the new evolution still being used until today, not just among the Chinese society, but also used by the Korean and Japanese. It also used in the field of writing and printing, and also being taught to the children in the Chinese school. In addition, we have the agricultural development. In the ancient China, their leader is very concerned with the agricultural field. So the development of agriculture since the early days of the Chinese dynasty led to the invention of the water canal in order to irrigate the agricultural area and as a flood preventing. In the Qin period, Shi Huangdi extended the irrigation system to the southwest of China. Meanwhile, in the Szechuan, the irrigation canal has been built, which would be capable to provide the water to the agriculture area in their province. Plus, farmers also began to use the border for planting purposes in this period, followed by the replacement of agricultural tools made of wood with tools made of iron. Besides that, we have the Sun Tzu philosophy of war. The art of war, written by an ancient Chinese military strategist, which is Sun Tzu, is the first known treatise on warfare strategy in the history. It discusses the intricacies of war and how to attack the enemy, and as it covers a variety of battle maneuvers and tactics, as well as strategic advices on collecting the information about the enemy location and battlefield terrain before attacking. So in fact, the art of war is still used until today and remain relevant to be applied not only in the warfare but also in the business.
Last but not least, Allah has mentioned in the Quran, Surah Yunus verse 14, "Then we make you successors of the land after them, so that we may observe how you will do." So Allah wants each of His servants to serve on the face of the earth. Allah has created the earth for every human being to try to develop and advance a civilization. In conclusion, we must always appreciate all the contribution made in order for our land to be civilized, and also we must always strive to sustain it. So I think that's all from us. Thank you.